I think that we are in a really critical moment as society, as humanity. I do think it's important to think globally because we are all spinning around on this planet together. We are sharing and consuming the same resources. GIS is really helping to connect us, to connect our places, to connect our different geographies, and really make people's lives better.
As we've become more sophisticated at using GIS maps, I've become more and more aware at how these different parts of our city relate to each other. We use GIS mapping now to correlate the life outcome data for people living in the city, where the shortened lifespans are, where the low school performances are. You can see how one thing led to another very, very clearly. And so it gives you this ability to problem solve with so much more information to understand the root causes of disparities in conditions and to create a more just society.
I think GIS can help connect the world because it's such a simple communication tool. And so being able to use maps to communicate is really, really important. You don't need a language to understand maps. It really helps with communication between different companies, different organizations, even different countries.
Anytime it matters spatially how two things are related, and that's just about everything in this world. You need GIS. You cannot fight poverty without knowing where poor people are. You can't fight hunger without understanding what's happening to crop yields. You can't have universal health coverage without knowing where the clinics are. Putting that together is where the great insights come from in pursuit of the Sustainable Development Goals.
I really believe that GIS is like the eyeglasses for biodiversity and the climate crisis. The degradation of our ecosystems is having direct impacts on our health. And we've seen different viruses jump from degraded ecosystems. When they're stressed, they jump over to other animals and to humans. If you don't have those maps showing what is important, where it's important, then you cannot have that conversation about what should be protected. GIS is really one of the most important tools that's going to help the world achieve these biodiversity conservation targets.
At the end of the day, we're telling stories through GIS about our needs, our wants, our environment, who we share the planet with, and I think that's what makes us really feel like we are not that different. That is really what makes us feel like we are all united through GIS.
Tēnā tātou katoa. It is my great pleasure to welcome you back to NZEUC Day 2. What a fantastic attendance we've got here at the moment, and we are about to kick off Plenary Day 2. So yesterday you heard from Scott, Kathleen, Philip, and the rest of the team about all the amazing things that are coming to the ArcGIS platform and the enhancements that have been put in recently. Today, we're going to switch tack a little bit, and we're going to hear from 3 organizations, your peers, effectively, on the work that they've been doing to implement ArcGIS in their organization and really deliver value and outcomes, some of which are nationally important. Before we do that, however, as we've done in previous years, we've invited the host city to provide an address to you all. So it is my great pleasure to introduce you all to someone many of you will know. This is Mr. Sean O'Dane from Wellington City Council. He's the strategic planning manager there and has overseen some incredible innovation at Wellington City Council over the years. If you please welcome Sean to the stage.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Nā mai, haere mai, ki tēnei hui, kai hanga mapi. Welcome to Wellington. Wellington, your capital. Wellington, my home. This is a special place, a place that's unique in New Zealand because it is the capital. No matter where in the country you have come from, no matter where you are going, in this city, you have a place to stand. It's a place where we make decisions. It's a place where democracy rests, and it's a place where democracy rises. But it's also a place that knows how special spatial really is. Wellington is a city that was built on spatial data. I mean, frankly, building a city here on a small shelf of land where a mountain range plunges into the windiest piece of ocean we could find, in the most active seismic zone known to man, it's perhaps not necessarily the smartest thing we could have done. But then again, we also could have not built on 53 volcanic cones or next to a massive braided river that likes wandering about. So, no matter what we can say, we're the capital of the bravest people on earth. But throughout our history, this city has quite literally been founded by innovating with the best spatial technology of the time to make it fit in and stand up under those circumstances. You can see that in the acceleration of spatial technology in our own archives, when suddenly our aerial map sets became digital in 1996, and then 3D in 2011, and then meshed in 2017. But GIS goes beyond data and maps. In fact, maps are the least you people can do. What you do is you change lives, and you change landscapes. GIS sits behind our council's investments in Zealandia and land use planning that have not only helped restore 8 previously extinct bird species, but now means we have kiwi roaming above Karori in suburban Wellington. It means that I'm having to teach my sons the names of birds I never learnt as a child because I had never ever seen one. It turns out that fancy tui is a saddleback. But it also has meant we could meet the challenges of the Kaikoura earthquake. It's meant we could pass a new district plan that has quadrupled the opportunities to build homes and businesses in Wellington. GIS hasn't made our city perfect, but it's made the lives of every Wellingtonian better. And time again, I've seen it do that. Time and time again, I've seen GIS not just make the future, but also change the future. And if you look at what that future looks like now, it's a bit more obviously uncertain than it usually is. There are big long-term questions we need to face about how our public service functions, how our democracy will be constituted, how our utility networks can grow affordably to secure our living standards. And this means we're investing in mapping that what is beneath the ground at far greater detail than before, rebuilding our public services using spatial and machine learning and understanding the systems of our city so we can better meet the challenges of this economic restructuring and climate change. We are fast moving to a time of exponentiality, a time that is beyond what we can remember in our own lives. And GIS helps us reach back through the centuries to understand that once Miramar was an island. It helps us understand that things have not always been the way they are, and that what may have happened over the last 400 years might happen over my children's lifetime. GIS lets us do that in a way that no other technology does. And that's where it becomes such an important part of our future and our city. And that's why we're so happy to welcome you here to our city. Because in many ways, what you do is what professionals with maps have always done. You help us plot the pathways to the future. You help us understand the landscapes and the seascapes we're moving through. You can help us, whether on a waka or in the deepest bush, figure out what needs to happen to New Zealand and what that transformation will look like. I know it's a big duty, but you've been given a platform like no other. And so the challenge is, how are you going to use it? I'm sure you're going to hear from many other people during the next few days about how they've used their platforms to create a better New Zealand and a better world. I've used mine How are you going to use yours? Thank you, and enjoy your conference.
Thank you, Sean. I really enjoy Sean talking. A pleasure as always, so thank you very much for that now. Okay, I'd like to introduce you to your MC who's going to guide you through to the end of this session. And it's a name some of you may not be familiar with, Mr. Peter Hawkins. Peter is the General Manager of Esri Asia Pacific, based out of Singapore. He's originally from London and Sydney. And he and his team do a huge amount of work in behind the scenes that many of you may not be aware of, but is highly valued by Eagle as a distributor, as well as the distributors in the rest of the region. Without further ado, please join me in giving Peter a warm Wellington welcome.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2. It's a real pleasure to be up here in front of you all, and I think it's always a good test. It's always a good testament of a major conference when you see the room as full, if not maybe fuller, on day 2 as it is on day 1. So yeah, good to see everybody here. As I was introduced by Graham, so a General Manager of Esri Asia Pacific, based in Singapore. We have a team of about 25 people who are either industry experts, come from a wide, rich kind of assortment of different backgrounds, technology advisors, customer service reps, et cetera, who are here to really help our 18 distributors across the Asia-Pacific region that span 22 countries, which is effectively where we are represented. And this, for us, is really a key part of Esri's ongoing investment across the region to make sure that we can not just continue to serve your needs and your requirements, but also help our distributors and collectively help the markets to progress and to innovate and to use GIS in many different ways. So it's a very, very exciting position. I myself feel that I'm part of my kin here. I've been originally a surveyor way back in the day. That was over in Europe and spanning multiple global markets. I then spent 12 years on the West Island. I know you've got the North and the South here, but I was in the West Island over in Sydney, and that was fantastic. So we spent a lot of time around spatial data, spatial platforms, and basically location applications in total. And one of the real benefits of our position, actually, is that we get to see a significant amount of the various applications and use cases which everybody in this room in multiple different markets really helps contribute and build towards. So it's an incredibly exciting position, and it's one that's obviously very fulfilling as well. I would also say that consistently when we look at all submissions for UC and so on, we actually get a huge amount of finalists that come from New Zealand. The work that you collectively do is some of the most innovative and some of the most advanced, not just across Asia Pacific, but also across the globe. So we're going to get, I think, a very good insight and snapshot of some of those this morning. So without further ado, I would also just like to start the introductions. We have 3 presentations this morning. First up, we've got Mathy Dornan, who comes from Transpower. She's been working, I think, in the GI space for about 14-odd years and has been leading a lot of the innovation and use of spatial data across Transpower. So this is a very good first intro for Mathy, because she will also be actually taking a leading position at the IMGIS conference in about 2 months' time over in Palm Springs in the US. So without further ado, please welcome Mathy Dornan from Transpower.
Thank you. Thank you, and good morning. So I'll share with you how high-resolution imagery, LiDAR, and GIS transform Transpower's approach to vegetation. But before I do that, a little bit about who we are. So Transpower is the owner and the operator of the national grid, with over 5 billion assets that run across the length and breadth of New Zealand. We don't generate or sell electricity, but we provide the infrastructure and the market system that connects the generators to major users and the distribution network, who provides the electricity to businesses and homes across New Zealand. We have 172 substations, around 37,000 towers and poles, and about 11,000 kilometers of transmission lines across the country. We have over 900 staff working across those 5 regions, keeping our lights on. So the reason for the transformation to use LiDAR is because we had a challenge that we needed to solve. Transpower was unsure of the vegetation risk that posed to our network across the country. Through Maxima, which is our asset management system, we discovered that we only had about 70% visibility into the defects that we had identified. So meaning that we were missing a crucial 30% of the risk. So we needed a comprehensive view of the encroachments and site-relevant factors along our lines. One of the main challenges was assessing the risk vegetation posed to our network, as overgrown trees could interfere with our lines and cause disruptions. So reducing such incidents was a priority. Additionally, we had to consider the impacts of extreme weather events like cyclones, storms, and forest fires. So during these events, trees that may not pose an immediate threat in normal conditions can become hazardous due to falling, causing significant damage to our infrastructure. This is an example of a tree falling on our lines, on the conductor. So this could have caused a fire, but luckily it didn't. So these are the incidents that we are trying to avoid. So to address these challenges, we introduced a new vegetation prioritization method, and also moved to using LiDAR to capture defects. And we are using Maxima to upload all our work orders relating to vegetation, and our GIS viewer to track these defects and track the progress and mitigation geographically. So what are we doing? So the new LiDAR approach has transformed the way we identify, capture, and process encroachment data, with a focus on improving accuracy, reducing delays, and enhancing our vegetation approach overall and our strategy. So while these changes may require some adaptation, they are designed to enhance our overall workflow and yield better results overall. One of the key changes is the introduction of the ArcGIS 3D viewer for vegetation encroachment, which increased our data accuracy. And not only do we improve our safety and operational efficiency, but we can also take a more proactive approach to vegetation management, and resulting in a better risk mitigation. The current data suggests that cutting activities may increase in the immediate future, emphasizing the importance of utilizing LiDAR technology. So by providing a clear visibility and a more accurate data, this is enabling us to identify critical areas for immediate attention, and which is supporting a more targeted cutting and efficient cutting activity. So 2 years ago, we conducted a proof of concept LiDAR survey in the Waikato region to determine the potential to enhance our vegetation management program. The results were highly positive, leading to an approval to fly the entire network, which we did in November of last year by a third-party supplier who flew that. So we provided our suppliers some key data One is being the LiDAR corridor width, which is wide enough to meet the tree regulations in New Zealand, and also conductor, swing, and sag under various conditions. So these CAD models of these swing and sag were also provided. It's to aid flight planning and data processing and reporting. In addition, we also specified what classifications we needed, the structures, the spans, the roads, the buildings, the ground. And we also provided them span center lines and tower center points, and these all assist with the flight planning and so forth. The LiDAR resolution is 25 points per square meter, and accuracy in the X, Y, and the Z coordinates was required to align with our previous LiDAR survey. So that's providing additional controls for precision, which was a key requirement from our engineers. Then we received classified data from our suppliers. This is the high-level solution that was implemented. So the LiDAR and the ortho imagery itself is over 500 gigs of data, along with, in addition, there was 41,000 PDF reports. So they were loaded from our supplier's AWS bucket into ours. And we have ArcGIS Pro machine sitting in AWS to process these. Items were created in ArcGIS Online for an image-dedicated service and incorporated into maps, as you would for any other ArcGIS Online services. We explored a few different options to store our ortho imageries, one being increasing disk capacity and memory into our internal server, but we had to consider the firewall and security impacts because we needed to expose this data externally. So finally, we decided to use image dedicated because we could potentially put all our in-house imagery services into the cloud in the future. We also, the 3D scene layers, which I'll show you some screenshots later, also published from the ArcGIS image dedicated. PDF, so on this flow, the 41,000 PDF reports were loaded into SharePoint and linked to ArcGIS Online. And then the work orders were loaded into Maximo, and we used Maximo spatialization to bring it into our enterprise geodatabase and a nightly FME process added to ArcGIS Online for viewing. So there's a 3D and a 2D viewer, 3D for the users to see, and both of them were pulling same information from Maximo, one being Maximo and SharePoint, and one being the view of the PDF report, which is a cross-sectional report. This is an example of a cross-sectional report that we received from our supplier. This has been hugely beneficial because this gives a vegetation crew an electronic or a paper display of the encroachment. So they can provide guidance to the crews and can also be used to demonstrate the risk to the landowner where there's vegetation. It provides the view of the cross-section sideway of the span, as you can see, and topographically as well. It also provides a cross-section of each of the individual encroachment. You can clearly see the different priority zones displayed on the vegetation. Such diagrams have been very effective in obtaining agreement from our landowners to cuts because it shows the landowners, one, there is a threat, and number two, how much needs to be cut. So the conversations were easier. Users can now use the measure tool on the 3D viewer and measure from the ground to the bottom of the encroachment, give that as crews instructions of how high to cut. So this can be done on the desktop before going out into the field. So they can also measure from the conductor to the ground to work out clearance if they're using plants or cranes as well. This demonstrates a tree that is a fall hazard to both the line on the right and to the left. So this is an example that a tree may need to be replaced or better maintained. Once again, the measure tool is doing its wonders to give our crews instructions. The LiDAR viewer also provides a great overview of not only the vegetation encroachment under the span, we can see other defects surrounding it as well. This is compared to where we used to have it in Maximo. There's a filtered defects where we'll have a tabular results of what the defects are. But in this view, in this picture, it certainly does paint 1,000 words. In this view, you can see other encroachments, like what are the other fall hazard, what are the other transmission line, not just the span, immediate span that we are looking at, and other distribution lines, and the use of the land, and what are those public spaces around, and access information like roads and topography, and much more. So with being able to see these defects, our service delivery managers they can plan the work at the right area, the right type of work, and at the right time as well. And they can use this to have these conversations with our service providers and landowners. This has been a collaborative effort between Transpower and our service providers. The approach was to present the tool, showing its benefits to both parties, while giving our service providers the freedom to determine how best to use it. Rather than dictating its use, how it should be used, we invited their input to developing an operational strategy together. It was truly a collaborative effort, a two-way collaboration, where we had extensive discussions, listened carefully to their feedback, and worked together over several months to assess both its feasibility and the value of the tool. The vegetation management plan now allows us to take a more proactive approach by identifying defects across the entire country. It's not just about seeing the jobs that needed to be done through the tool. We also wanted to understand the service provider's approach to address these risks. For instance, how do they prioritize and identify those risks? Are they focusing on high fire risk areas or public safety concerns? How do they prioritize the different types of risks? And what is their approach to tree management overall and efficiency? So we are interested in not how the service providers use the tool or carry out the work itself, but gaining insights into their overall approach to planning and prioritization. We are providing our service providers a more comprehensive view of the risks they face, along with a more effective tool for managing vegetation than what they've previously had. Now they have a complete visibility on the location, type, and the severity of those issues. We recognize the value of the data, so we are providing it to them, and the next step is to evaluate what works well and what needs improvement, and now that they have the tool at their disposal. Effective change management was crucial to the successful implementation of this operational plan. So to ensure a smooth transition, we had a comprehensive training program, ongoing engagement, and regular communication. And we are now holding post-go-live feedback forums to identify and gather insights into how the tool is being used, what's working well, what's not, and any suggestions for improvement. And this has been really useful for us in further enhancing the tool. So there's a number of business benefits, outcomes, and then we're still increasing. But I'll just highlight a few. As I mentioned, again, that we have a total view of the vegetation risk on our network. This is a vast improvement. We had 15,000 current work orders in Maximo, our asset management system, that we were working on vegetation. And it increased to 41,000 following the LiDAR survey. So we were only looking at the immediate future, which is a third of what we needed to do. So the usual manual inspections on foot weren't capturing what we needed to do. So it is a great tool to identify gaps in our existing data. It's also improving our communication with our landowners, leading to quicker and easier decision-making. The cross-sectional Growan report that I showed, it provides valuable information that is helping facilitate discussion with our landowners to obtain permission for cutting. As I mentioned, picture paints 1,000 words. They can use the Growan report or the actual viewer as well. It's a significant improvement. The real game changer for us is the measure tool. Because in GIS, we seem to sometimes forget there's a measure tool which sits at the top corner of an application. However, it's significantly changed how we determine cutting heights. So now the crew can measure distances at their desktop before going out into the field, eliminating the need to use range finders out in the field from measuring from the conductor down and having, guessing where it should head. So this is a vast improvement. So they can simply take the measurements before they go out into the field. With the integration with Maximo, the status of the job is easily tracked through ArcGIS, the viewer, and progress can be viewed geographically. It's not just for the service delivery crew, but also for the management that's seeing how well we are progressing. The other one is there's a number of operational efficiencies, one being system control center can see if there's a trip on our circuit, whether that's caused by the vegetation falling on our lines or not, by assessing the status of the work order. We now have a comprehensive view of the land around our lines, such as the topography of the land for access, buildings, distribution lines, etc., helping us to scope the work better and quicker. And our engineers are now using these to verify their current CAD models as well and making those comparisons. So what's next for us in terms of enhancements? Our number one priority is to have a better mobile access to the crew out in the field. So through ongoing user engagement sessions, that feedback has suggested that adding additional data to enhance the information they already have will be useful. So this includes features like access tracks to the towers. They can already see the road, but what are those access tracks to the towers, the bridges, culverts, etc.? Property boundary details and the property. And environment-related data, instead of what are those archaeological risks? What are the significant natural areas around it? What do they need to avoid? We also aim to improve integration with other field applications that are being used across service providers and internally as well. And LiDAR will also be incorporated into other parts of the organization for situational awareness, public safety criticality, and tactical engineering. We are doing more of demonstrations, so more they see, there's more business needs are coming through. So this is going to increase. We'll also use it for an year-on-year comparison to determine the growth rate of vegetation around, and auditing of the vegetation practices, and also change of the land features around our lines, what's changing. Looking ahead, we'll use AI and machine learning for growth prediction and species detection. Before I finish, share some key takeaways with you. One, which I've mentioned many times, is we now have a complete view of the vegetation risk, because without it, nothing else is possible. So we have improved our accuracy of the data, and we've identified gaps and we've closed those. This has greatly improved our engagement with our landowners and service providers. And we're delivering an improved and operational efficiency for vegetation management, and it leads on to other operational efficiencies as well. Risk reduction, because now we have increased reliability of our network. And overall, this is an enhanced approach to our vegetation management. Thank you. And if you have any questions or would like to find out more, come and find me at Expo or anywhere around here. Thank you.
Great job, Mathy. Well done. Thank you very much, Mathy. That's a really interesting application. And actually, for New Zealand, the first actual utilization of image dedicated. And for those of you who don't know, it basically brings analytics and the computational power close to the imagery catalogs that you have sitting in the cloud, either on AWS or also Azure. So it does a couple of things. It obviously speeds up the actual technical solutioning that sits in the back end of the application, plus on top of that, it substantially reduces some of the cost implications as well. So really great job. And Mathy, very good luck for your session over in Palm Springs at IMGIS, and good job for flying the Kiwi flag. So just before we move on to the very next one, we do just want to say there's a lot of people who are at the back of the room. There are quite a few empty tables and seats here at the front. So we'll just kind of have a quick sort of 10, 20-second sort of break. Just please do, if you're sitting on chairs at the back and you wish to come a little bit further forward, there's some great prime seats at the front here. So please do, just feel free to come on forward and find a spot. Don't be shy. I think this is a really interesting and a really great community. So I'm sure nobody will mind. So please do take this opportunity to move on forward. So thank you. All right. So moving on. The second presentation of today is actually we're going to have two presenters. So we've gone from utilities application and some really advanced and innovative applications from Transpower from the utility side, all the way through to a very different application, and more importantly, sort of conservation. So we have Hamish Lass from the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, and also Scott Sambell from Ethos Environmental, who's going to share a really interesting story around invasive species in the marine habitat. So without further ado, please welcome both Hamish and Scott to the stage. Come up, please.
Thank you, Peter. I don't need that, because I do it with a story map, as you guys know. Some of you might know that I don't use this thing because I refuse to use PowerPoint. And some of you may know that I usually get up here and I say some crazy story about something that we've created in ArcGIS Online. Some of these systems that we create are unprecedented. Some of them have a little dog in them that's out on an island. This presentation is going to have nothing about dogs and rats in it, but most of the systems that I talk about have got some kind of a crazy challenge involved with them. And this particular one, the challenge is, imagine trying to get all of the regional councils in New Zealand to collaborate on a biosecurity incursion system together and all be operating off the same schema. So this one is, as you can probably see on the screen, underwater. I know nothing about the marine environment, so we're really, really lucky today to have Hamish Lash, who's the project lead on this, to tell us about some of the challenges that he's facing in marine biosecurity. So thank you, Hamish, over to you.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, with growing awareness of marine pests and vessels moving between regional boundaries, we saw there was a need and demand for data collected to be more easily accessed by users and stakeholders and partnership councils. A tool was needed for recording and tracking pest locations and vessel locations and information. Timely and relevant data is crucial to understanding new marine pest threats, where they come from, what the impact of existing threats are, and how they're distributed. This data would be used to inform management responses and determine how effective current management regimes are. So these are some of the pests that we're dealing with. They all look, some of them look quite pretty, and some of them are in New Zealand and some of them aren't. So one of them that we have been battling for over 2 decades is this one, which is also quite an attractive underwater organism. For quite a long time, it's a nasty fan worm, tube-dwelling worm, can grow up to 800 mils, so reasonably big underwater, forms dense beds, outcompetes other species for food and space, a normal marine invasive, can form colonies of up to 1,000 individuals per square metre, so you can imagine what that does to our beautiful moana in New Zealand. Highly effective filter feeder, and it can impact aquaculture industries, mussels, and recreational activities. So it's just really how I would explain it, a really mean little worm, and is a bit of a bully to our native species. So yeah, Mediterranean fanworm likes to settle on new surfaces, and it does have a preference for vessel hulls, and it can spread via these hulls to other locations where the pest isn't, all around the coast. And this is not just a problem for us in the Bay of Plenty, it's a problem everywhere. The ability of the species to attach to a wide range of surfaces in varying environmental conditions, its fast growth rate, prolific breeding habit, and makes it particularly competitive. In the top of the North Island here, we have a lot of vessels in the water through Waikato Regional Council, Northland, Auckland, and ourselves. We sort of hold 70% of the national recreational fleet, so that's a lot of vessels. So what we needed from Scott and his team was a tool where we could house vessel registration information, including MSN number, which is a maritime number, so you can identify a boat, and potentially ownership details. We needed to contain vessel inspection information, cleaning history, and allowed vessel owners to view that information, and also allowed councils to share and look at other people's information as well. And something that could be updated with cleaning activities, because that's what we want people to do to stop the spread. So yeah, we needed something that we could also input data from our surveillance activities, from our divers, other regional council staff divers, contract divers, who may be working in several different locations, and analyse this data. But first, we need a database, Scott.
I just realised I can't see my screen without my glasses these days, so I'm putting them on and off time. Okay, so obviously, just you know the solution is going to be on ArcGIS Online, because that's what we always present about. Now, as I always say, and I know I harp on about this, but the first things first, you've got to keep your field workers happy. If you don't have good data going in, then your project's doomed from the start. Now, obviously, the first things we're going to jump to when we think about how we're going to get the data in there, we're going to use field maps. I would absolutely loved to have just used smart forms for this, but Hamish and I at the start did a couple of the back of the envelope calculations on this and realized that we're going to have about 10,000 unique boats in this system. And what Hamish asked was that when these guys are out on the boats or out in the wharf inspecting these boats, just so they can check they got the same boat as last time so we can track them, can we please have a picture of that boat that they can call up either offline or online? This Servo 123 project here has 10,000 images in it. And this is one of the, and I'm going to go on about this as well, this is one of the incredible creations that Enric Shen has come up with, in that no, we do not have a media folder in there that's 20 gig that everyone has to download every time they go out in the field. All of those images are converted to base 64 code. They are put into a hosted CSV on the portal, and they are linked content to the form. So it's super fast, it's super light, and the field workers can bring up an image instantly of a vessel if they're honing down, they're going, oh, it's this long, it's this color, oh, that's the one, and they can see a color of the boat there. They can see a picture of the boat there if they're not entirely sure they've got the right one. Now, I've got a little bit of a video here playing of just the workflow there. So they're going to, the old story, they're going to field maps, they launch serve 123, they put their boat inspection in there. Now, what this means is that as these guys are cruising along on the wharf, for example, there's a Sulphur Point Marina just down here, they can take a picture of a boat, they can enter it into the system. So obviously the first time you discover a boat, you've got to put it in the system to start with. If somebody else takes a photo of the same boat at the other end of the marina, then what's happening is whenever a new boat is put into the system, it gets a unique ID. So the person at the other end of the marina can have that boat there straight away. Now, we could create unique IDs by just saying, oh, let's just create a global ID and we'll just have all this mess of all these unique IDs. But what it actually does with unique ID is that it takes those attributes that they've entered and creates. So if it's let's say it's a boat called Wave Rider and it's 30 feet long and it's blue, it will create a unique ID from those attributes. So if the other guy enters some data at the other end of the marina, he's going to be entering the same boat. And so what's going to happen is that boat's only going to have 2 inspections. It's not going to be a boat entered twice into the system. And what this actually ultimately meant was that the guys out in the field, they were able to enter data a hell of a lot faster and more accurate. And there was no data cleanup afterwards. And so you get these guys here, like Joe, for example, and he's sitting here and he's looking up going, thanks very much for this app, Scott. Really appreciate this. I used to be able to sit at one end of the marina and slowly float all day to the other end of the marina, just leisurely inspecting boats. But now the field capture got the data entry guys on the wharf are entering data so quick, he's having trouble keeping up. So they've gone from taking all day to do something. So Joe's not stoked, but the data entry guys are, and hopefully Hamish was as well. And they can be moving a lot faster, getting this data in there and doing it a lot more accurately. So we've got the data guys out in the field putting stuff in. Who else do we want to put data into the system, Hamish?
Well, that's a good start, Scott. Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, we also wanted to be able to engage the public and let them input data about their own boat and also be able to see what data we were collecting on their boat.
So, and I think you all knew this was coming. This is built on a hub. The Arctis Hub Premium is obviously the only tool in the arsenal for doing this. If you haven't used Hub before, and you can, by the way, everybody who's got an Arctis Online portal, you've got a free hub on that. You don't have Hub Premium, but I kind of think of Hub Premium as being sort of 2 portals in one. So on one side over here, you've got your community portal. I think of it just like a standard Arctis Online portal, except that it has got, say, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 usernames on there. All right. Now, on the other side of it, and this is where we put all our boaties when they sign up for the system, for example. On the other side, you've got your employee portal. And on this side, you've got your initiatives, and that's where your sites are, and your pages are over there. And that's the real hubby side of things, so that when people jump on there, for example, when Hamish gets up in the morning and he jumps on and he has his cup of coffee and looks at his stats in the morning, he's looking at this site just here. And he can see the stats that he wants to see. And he's got pretty much access to the entire thing. Now, he's with Bay of Plenary Regional Council, so when he logs in, he sees the Bay of Plenary Regional Council icon just there. But if someone's from Auckland Council, they've got access to that particular team, and so they might just see the Auckland Council stuff. It's the same page. They're both getting up in the morning, they're both logging into the same hub page, but because we share certain apps with certain people, that's what they see on the screen. And you don't have to make 20 different pages for 20 different people. They just see the app that we have shared with them. So that's one site there, which the managers and the staff and employees and those type of people are using. Now, the other side is, of course, what the public are going to see. So we want to have these boaties to be able to get in there and claim their boat and have a look at, see what's going on with their boat. So this is just a public page here on the hub site. When they go to that little sign up button just there, they go to this little page where they can use their social login. So if they've got a Facebook login and something like that, they can use that, or they can just create their own named user. And then once they've done that and they've created their username, then they get to a form, there it is just there, which says claim your boat. Now they're putting in some information in here, same sort of information we're entering out in the field. So it's like the length of the boat, the color of it, how many masts, the name of the boat, that type of stuff. They have to prove that they own that boat. and then we match that with one of the ones we've got in our database, and we say, yep, okay, approved, you get one of these links down here. And of course, one named user can have multiple boats, so you got your named user, which is unique, and you got your boat ID, which is unique as well. And once they click on one of these things here to say, yep, you can see what's going on your boat, then they get this little form down here. Now, think about this. We've got a database on a hosted feature service which has got 10,000 boats on it, right? Let's say we've got 10,000 users. We want to share that data with these people real time, but we want to do it securely. We can't make this public. So what are we going to do? We're going to make 10,000 views, aren't we? And we're going to make 10,000 groups. And we have a group for every single user. And we're going to make a dashboard for every user. I mean, how else are you going to do it? Which is what I asked Enric. And Enric said, I've got an idea. What we'll do is we'll make this little HTML form here, which we'll create on the web server on demand. And they'll download it to their browser. And they'll kind of think that they are working in a dashboard here. But this is actually a static page. But you can sort of zoom around and you can see where your boat's been and you can see all the updated information. Once they've got this HTML file, they can forward it to their mother and their mates and do whatever they want to it. The security's out of our hands, but we don't have to worry about managing all these groups and the views and that type of thing. So as they hit the button, then they download their report and they can do whatever they want with it. Where are we up to now, Hamish?
So now we've got the database, great, a way of recording hull inspections for each boat and a way for the public to enter their data and view their data securely. The field workers were happy because it was taking 1 to 2 hours to inspect a marina, for example, instead of 8 to 10. And managers like myself were happy because we could see accurate data coming in real time and our reporting was just a click away. The next problem was that this was only intended for the top of the North Island, which is the 4 councils that I talked about before. But I was getting calls from all around New Zealand, from Marlborough, Nelson, Southland, Canterbury, all throughout the whole, and Wellington as well. So it was starting to get quite large.
Yeah, and this is where the sharing gets complicated, because when a new council comes on board, they don't just come on board with the same problems that all the other councils have got. They might come on and they say, oh, we've got this particular data scientist that's doing a study on Asian paddle crabs. Can they have access to that data? Oh, my manager's manager, I want them to have access to absolutely everything, but God's sake, don't let him have any editing rights whatsoever. And so the way we keep track of all these people and who they, which association they're with and what they're allowed to do is with categories. Now, if you admin one of these crazy portals like we do yourself a favor and start using categories for your usernames. So I know you can use categories for your items, but you can use them for users as well. So you can see some of the categories we give people just up here. So when someone signs up and they go, oh, you're with that council, but not that council, and you're a data collector and you want to be able to export this one just here. Okay, no problem. This isn't rocket science, all right? It's just ArcGIS Online, and there's 2 things you've got to remember with ArcGIS Online: what someone's role is and what group they're in. So everyone who's hosted on this, pretty much everyone who's hosted on this portal has got a bespoke role, and you have so many bespoke roles and you put them in. There's a lot of groups, but you put them in so many groups and then you know where everybody is and what they're doing. And just because I like to play around with these type of things, Enric made me this thing where at any stage we want to look someone up who's on the portal, or even if they're not hosted on our portal, if someone is hosted on someone else's portal, but they are shared into one of our groups, we can search for them. I can't show you how it works because it's got people's email addresses and names up there. But this is the one for all the items and the groups just here. So I can really easily just zoom around like this and see at a click exact, because there's a lot of people in here. Like there's thousands of people in here. So I can see pretty quickly who's got access to what. And if Hamish wants to know at some stage, he can look that up as well. So we've got all our data going in there. We've got all of our sharing sorted out. All the councils are going out. Is there anything else? Is there anyone else who we want to have data, be putting data into the system, Hamish?
Nearly there, Scott.
Nearly there.
We also want marina operators to be able to input data so we can see which boats have arrived there or left, and if their boats are of interest to other councils and had target pest species within those locations. and to enter data from their haul-out facilities, like when they get anti-fouled or cleaned.
Okay, so marina operators, they get themselves a little experience build, and this is a data-driven experience build here. So what they can do is they go to this URL here, and this guy's for Bridge Marina. He's got his own login. The login knows who he is and what he's got access to, and so he can enter data in here, so he can say, hey, this boat has come into my arena. If this is one of those boats that Hamish has been looking for, there's like a boat of interest, and it's been known a couple of times to have one of these pests on its hull, then he can get a notification straight away to say that this guy has come into this marina, and he wants to get some of his guys down there pronto to check that out. And this guy can also search for boats as well, so if he sees a suspicious boat, he can look at it and go, oh, yeah, I think I know where that guy's from. Maybe I better ring Hamish and tell him what's going on. Surely there's nothing else that we can put in this system. Is there any other data we can input into this, Hamish?
There is.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we've got heaps of boats out there with AIS. So AIS is a global tracking network for commercial vessels, which is also used with a lot of recreational vessels as well. Can we track their movements in and out of the harbours and add them to the database as well?
Funny you should say that, because here's something I prepared earlier. Okay, so I didn't know what AIS was until Hamish told me, and it's really, really cool, right? Because this is one of those very rare situations where you've got people who are willingly giving you their data. This is like the Facebook of the high seas. People are going to leave a port. They say, I'm leaving here, I'm going over here, I should be there at this stage, and I'm here right now. It's not quite as good as Instagram, where they're going to take pictures of what they've had for breakfast and that type of stuff, but it's the next best thing. So all we have to do is poll this. We poll this data once a day, and once again, these are the guys down in Marlborough at the moment. They want to know what new boats are coming into their area every time. And all we're doing is polling them once a day and saying, hey, here's some new boats. There's some dude who's just put anchor right out here at the back, one of your outer harbours out here, and he's one of your boats of interest. You might want to check that out just there. Now, surely there's nothing else we need to put in the system. Is that job done now, Hamish?
Yeah, I think that should probably do it, Scott. I
Sweet.
don't think there's anything else we could possibly need to cover.
And we did it a little bit quicker than usual this time too. So thanks very much. We'll see you guys later, and job done. Wait! Hamish! What's this?
Oh, that's really, really bad, Scott.
Is that really bad?
It is
bad.
No. Caulerpa, the bane of our lives, is an invasive seaweed, one of the worst seaweeds in the world, and it compete with other species, very similar to fanworm, rapid growing, can grow in a wide range of substrates, and can outcompete natives for space. Turned up in Great Barrier Island in 2021.
All right, I've still got 2 minutes left on the clock, so here we go. The thing that I love about Arctis Online is that it is so fast and adaptive. So this actually happened. These guys rang me up. They said, we're having a meeting about Caulerpa. I said, what's Caulerpa? And they explained that to me. And we said, right. I said, right, what do you need? And they said, right, well, there's extra fields that we need in here. We need these extra field apps. We've got these extra contractors coming out. And we got this turned around in a couple of days because we already had a system and it's adaptable. And so what we did was we got it out there and we said, okay, so what else do you need? We've got the field maps, we've got all these new fields, we've got a different scheme and that type of stuff. And they said, oh, there's one more thing that we're going to do as well. And I don't like getting excited about biosecurity threats to our fragile native ecosystems, but they said, oh, we're using underwater drones. And I got to make, I've done this with aerial drones before. This is the first time I got to make a quick capture for an underwater drone. So Thomas is actually out there right now, and I'm going to look at this afterwards because I can see his live data coming in. He drops his drone in the water, he sends it out, and he's going on quick capture like this, and we're getting the locations of all the Caulerpa patches that he's seeing in real time as he's hitting that on quick capture. And I thought, it can't get any cooler than this. Once again, I feel guilty for feeling excited about this because this is a terrible threat to our ecosystems. But then I realized that one of the contractors, was putting data in a lot faster than everybody else. And so I gave him a ring and said, hey, Brooke, what's going on? You're doing 10 times the amount of data, everything else. He goes, oh, yeah, I meant to talk to you about that. I'm using field maps underwater. I went, you're what? And he said, yeah, I made it myself. I've got this ruggedized case, right? And I've got field maps. It's really good, eh? It's really, really easy to use. And he goes down, and he's just swimming along these transects that he's pre-planned, And he's just going in there, and he's not just hitting a button, he's going to little drop-down menus, and he's going, yep, that's the one, this type of stuff. And he's got this thing that floats above him. It's this GPS antenna, right? And he gets to a point, he goes, I want really accurate this here. So he pulls on his tether like this, and the GPS antenna is right above him like this, and he's getting 3-meter accuracy, and he's going to the point where he's going out there, he's going, yep, point here, point here, point here, point here. He's going back and treating it, and then he goes back the third time, and I just spoke to him because I said, hey, have you got any photos I can put up on the screen out here of you using field maps underwater? He goes, yeah. He goes, oh, by the way, I just went back to Port Jackson out there. You know, we're talking about that? I said, yeah. He goes, it's all gone. He said, I got it all. As far as we can tell, because he's going to the exact locations where he saw these infestations, and he's dropping straight in the water and going this transit and going, I treated it, and yes, it's gone. And he said, I would not have been able to do that without field maps. He said, it has made the absolute difference to this biosecurity response that we're doing here at the moment. So I'm resting easy now. Hamish, are you happy with what we've got?
I am happy, yeah. But I will say, Scott, biosecurity is a little bit like a parking warden.
Why is that, Hamish?
They turn up when you don't want them to. 2, they're a bit annoying. And 3, they cost you money, although marine biosecurity costs a little bit more than a parking ticket.
It does.
But we'll never run out of a job.
We will never run out of a job. And next time we have got an incursion response, we'll come back here and tell you about it. Thank you very much, Hamish.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks. Well done.
Thanks, man.
Oh, wait, you can have this back now.
Thank you very much. You guys should be selling tickets to this. That was probably one of the most sort of comical and lively presentations I've seen. So thank you so much. So, I mean, levity and joking aside, some really good, again, innovative use of some of the capabilities which are on offer. Field maps, number one, being utilized in an underwater environment, absolutely fantastic. And also, secondly, Hub. So Hub is another area where we've been seeing a lot more of inter-agency, inter-council, even inter-organizational collaboration. And that's clearly been one of the big pushes over the last couple of years, and certainly one of the key trends that we're seeing now more and more, because GIS is a foundational data capability that is something that can tie many of these together. We typically see this happen normally around sort of emergency management, emergency responses. I know you had a pretty nasty storm here a year or so ago. And those are the sorts of things which normally actually get a lot more activation around some of the collaboration. And actually what we tend to see then is once we've had that initial kind of trigger event, the level of collaboration truly sort of accelerates beyond that. So Hub is certainly one of the key capabilities to really help enable that. The other thing I've just noticed as well is New Zealand's a damn dangerous place. If it's not from earthquake zones to crazy winds upon landing in Wellington, you've got invasive species in the marine environment. I think I need to go back to Singapore. It's a slightly safer environment. Anyway, all right. So just moving on, I would like to introduce you to our last speaker of the day. My apologies. So again, we've sort of gone from utilities to marine ecosystems and now to actually protecting lives, particularly around sort of the coastal environments. And I'd like to introduce Chris. Chris coming on stage, excuse me, to present from Surf Lifesaving New Zealand, but also actually supports a second role with Surf Lifesaving Australia as well. So Chris Stevens, please join us up on stage.
Thanks, mate. Thank you. Cheers. Kia ora koutou, and thank you, Peter. And I love the red and yellow touch, so thank you very much to the AV team. Well, I'm not here to try to convince you of the strength and the power of GIS. If I am, we are all in the wrong place. I am today here to present and talk to you about the very small but very powerful impact that GIS has had in a very short time frame on us, Surf Lifesaving New Zealand. I've been very fortunate to be the operational technology advisor since 2010.
I've also been a long-time GIS practitioner, so very lucky to be here this morning to present. And in the short time I have, I'd like to discuss where the science of where meets the science of saving lives. I've either been employed or volunteered in surf lifesaving in Aotearoa or internationally for over 30 years. So today, to combine my two great passions, I'm very privileged. There's no need to convince you all of what surf lifesaving does. Most of you are very knowledgeable to Surf Lifesaving New Zealand and seeing us as the leading beach and coastal safety, drowning prevention and rescue authority in Aotearoa. We're truly unique, delivering proactive lifeguard and essential emergency rescue services, a range of public education, beach safety programs, members education, training and development, and of course, a highly regarded sport. We've been around since 1910. However, it's only as late as last November that we've become truly one national organisation, and that was with the decision of the Northern Region Board to fall under the banner of Surf Lifesaving New Zealand. As you can see in front of you, we've just got a few stats. We have 74 lifesaving clubs, around 92 patrolling locations, including those clubs and regional lifeguarding locations. We have about 4,500 active lifeguards, 40 SAR, or search and rescue or call-out teams, which has become an integral part of our organisation, expanding outside that flagged environment to offering 24/7 search and rescue and emergency management response to our parent organisation, police, ambulance, fire and others. And we have over 18,000 members. A snapshot of last season and the power of what our volunteers do. We had around 883 direct lives saved, 1,115 assists, over 240,000 volunteer patrol hours, just over 40,000 preventative actions, 191 searches, and just short of 1,700 first aids. But our GIS journey has been long. As a charity and non-profit organisation, it's difficult to evoke change. Even more difficult, however, is the ability to raise funds to fulfil the needs of our organisation. The small amount of funding we have has to go into a lot of pots. So to try to get funding directly to spin up a GIS system was always going to be a difficult task. Surf Lifesaving also has been quite a segregated organisation in the past, before we made the move to a national organisation. Over the past decade, our Surf Lifesaving districts and regions have been proactive on their own cause, often using their own initiatives to build their own radio communications networks and collect and manage their own spatial data, be it with a handheld GPS and then copying that to a spreadsheet. Taking nothing away from what they did, we needed to form a cohesive and authoritative national strategic plan. And so that's what we did. Back in 2012, we developed an operational technology master plan with the key focus being on a national coordinated approach to all operations. The master plan focused predominantly on critical communications, but also included operational technology applications, including GIS. The critical communication strategy, as you can see there, was to deliver near coastal coverage of radio communications through land mobile radio, ensuring that we had narrowband digital data to facilitate GNSS tracking, alerting, statusing of our members. Through the build of a national communication centre called SurfCom, the plan was to have a single point of contact for all emergency service stakeholders to contact us no matter the emergency. And of course, the master plan also called for GIS, and a very strong call for GIS because I wrote it. So we had the perfect master plan, but no funding to do so. And then tragically, this happened.
I'm from Gisborne, and recently we got hit by the big cyclone, Cyclone Gabrielle. It did a mess on our town. There was flooding everywhere, lots of crops and homes from people, they were all getting destroyed. And Surf Life Saving, we did a lot to help them out. I was in the houses a couple of days, just digging and getting through all the silt, trying to get them dry so then they can hopefully repair the houses and they're not all lost.
You're kind of really feeling for the community, but also you know your clubbies are out there and putting their lives on the line. You know, Jess Bennett and Sania Brewer and the crew up there were just doing a phenomenal job. I think there were 6 days on the water. You know, some of those days were 16 hours.
I think our lifeguards are better than non-lifeguards on and off the water. Our lifeguards have the skills and the knowledge to work with different people in different aspects so they can understand chain of command as well. Having the guys do lifeguarding away from the beach was absolutely awesome.
Going knocking on doors or lifting power lines so they can go underneath them, and they were telling us how they were so hungry on the first couple of days. They were going around finding the apples that were at the top of the trees that hadn't been in the flood just because they were so hungry. So you know, the stories that I heard when I was up in Hawke's Bay were just, you know, phenomenal, the amount of work those guys did.
Clubs like Moringi Bay helping with IRBs on Warrow Road. You know, driving an IRB down the main road in Auckland sometimes is a bit of an interesting concept, but the diversity of what lifesaving can provide to SAR squads and different scenarios is really special. Regardless of what club where you're from, when that comradeship in lifesaving is across the whole nation.
My role was really to go up there and support, and then in the end bring up a couple of crews from the south here to give them a bit of a break.
My dad and my step family are there. It means a lot. Like that's what we grew up doing. We all have to volunteer and go down at the beach and sort of do those preemptive actions. And I think that's crucial. No one wants to see anyone drown at the end of the day, and you're just helping everyone you can.
Whether it's through sport or the lifesaving, everybody gets involved. It's a really proud thing to be a part of lifesaving. It's a really good honour.
Now, there's not meant to be a dry eye in the house now, but this was a call for action. It was a new job for Surf Life Saving to be able to assist with events like this, like Gabrielle, and other storm events that occurred before it. And tragically, no doubt, we'll respond in the future. The issue we had is during this event, we had no remote communication support or spatial visibility of any of our responding teams. We were blind. I was actually on a road trip at the time down to Taranaki to look at some communication sites, and we're meant to fly into Hawke's Bay from there. We actually did a U-turn and went back to Auckland. And I was sitting at Mechanics Bay, which is our Surfcom operations centre, watching and trying to help, and felt completely vulnerable that I couldn't do anything. We had teams flying in with the Air Force. They had radios, but on the ground, they could speak to each other, but we could not speak to them. And more importantly, we could not see them. So enabled with some significant funding boosts from NZ-SAR through the Ministry of Transport, we set about evoking change. We wanted to ensure that we would never again be left blind and put our lifesavers at risk.
So along with some significant improvements to our critical communications network and the build of a national operations centre in Auckland, co-located with the Coast Guard at the Marine Rescue Centre at Mechanics Bay, we rapidly enacted our operational technology master plan, which included a GIS-centric platform. Within a very rapid development timeframe from mid-2023 onwards, we're able to spin up an ArcGIS enterprise solution. Within our deployment, we included the standard stack, as well as a couple of components which were very important to us, and that was GeoEvent Server and spatial temporal data stores. Most of you will have seen a very simple architecture like this before, and it needed to be a simple architecture that we wanted to host public-facing in the Azure cloud through the application gateway, but more importantly, be able to not have a huge hosting bill at the end of the day. And we're able to facilitate this by using Esri's ArcGIS Cloud Builder, which made it very simple to spin up and maintain the system. We moved rapidly to ensure that we could ingest and display in real time the situational awareness that we had lacked for so many years, including through Cyclone Gabrielle. And as you can see there, we have a number of ingested data sets. GeoEvent Server is the core foundation of success to what we've been able to deliver to this point. And as you can see from the list there of ingested data, we're able to ingest data from our Motorola, Tate and Hytera DMR radio networks, our Garmin InReach, our cellular trackers, ADSB flight tracking, Met alerts, CAP alerts, and earthquake data. We also made sure that we had some self-hosted data and, of course, used readily available online data sources and base maps, which we all use, and very proud of some of those base maps that Eagle have been able to build, maintain, and supply us as users for free. It was baby steps though. We had no internal GIS resource. As the advisor, my role is about 4 or 5 hours per week, and I do have a life and other clients outside Surf Lifesaving. So we decided to start small and build a system that would give us the situational awareness and the clarity of what we needed. Apart from the back-end development of GeoEvent Server, and of course the publishing of our layers that we needed, feature layers and feature services that we needed, we built a very simple web application, originally on 10.9.1, but fortunately upgraded recently to 11.3. So we've got a little bit of rebuilding to do, and we're hoping to get stuck into Experience Builder and rebuild some of these maps before our season. One of the big winners for us, however, was the ability to be able to now view our ingested data in real time. As you can see there from the variety of screenshots, this is the location tracking from our two-way radio network. This narrowband data comes in by numerous sources, depending on where the networks are located, ingested through GeoEvent Server, and then displayed as points and also breadcrumb trails using various processes available within the GeoEvent Server suite. I am running a session after morning tea on situational awareness where we will go into the GeoEvent Server and the services that we've built over that time. What you might see there might be simple, breadcrumbs and locations of land mobile radios or two-way radios. It's actually not. What we've been able to achieve is the envy of public safety agencies around the world. I work directly with a number of public safety agencies in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria, and there are a number of those which are far more flushed with cash than Surf Lifesaving New Zealand still can't get this into their GIS systems for one reason or another. So we are the envy of others. We, of course, want to be able to have situational awareness to advise our clubs and lifeguards proactively of weather and weather events, and the incorporation of Met alerts, once again via the Eagle layer, or real-time weather, wind, temperature and lightning layers have made it extremely proactive for us to be able to radio out or send push notifications through our application to our on-beach lifeguards to warn them of pending lightning strikes, etc., that they can deal with before the first lightning strike has actually hit the near area in which they're patrolling. Another big win for us is obviously data collection. And using Survey 123 and soon to also use field maps, we've been able to crowdsource important information from our membership. As I said, we have over 4,500 active lifeguards, but we also have a wider audience of 18,000 members. So using Survey 123, we've been able to crowdsource essential geospatial feature data for life-saving operations. Two key feature sets for us has been place names and beach access tracks. Using Survey 123, we've opened these surveys up to our membership, and this is only a recent undertaking. Using the place name survey, we've been able to capture also critical emergency response information located to those places. This includes our members populating the surveys with information like what's the quickest access by water or by land to that place? What is the best rescue tool to use when evoking a rescue on that location? What is the response time from the club or the closest access track? Once we've accumulated this data and published it, it will give us a fantastic situational awareness tool to be able to feed back to our partner emergency service agencies on how long it will take for us to respond to an incident using this wealth of information we've crowdsourced from our own membership. Data like this will be invaluable to us and our state operations and our National Operations Centre, but also data we plan to share with our stakeholders and make available to you all in the room that need it in the future. Another is beach access tracks. Using Survey 123, we want to capture the location of each formal or informal beach access tracks, photographic evidence of those, marking those up and their suitability for vehicle access, whether it's four-wheel drive, ATV or side-by-side. This will help our duty officers and our responders be able to pick suitable access tracks to be able to respond to incidents, knowing that they can fit the assets that they need down those access tracks from data they've created well before the emergency happens. Another big milestone for us, with using GIS as the basis of its architecture, we've developed an operational application for all our members. Using BYOD devices, members are able to run this patrol application and search and rescue application on their own device. And at the start of their patrol, the lifeguards will sign on, sign off, populate critical information that will then go back to our GIS system and be displayed. One of the future advancements for us is building GIS dashboards to be able to display this information so our senior management teams, our boards and our volunteers at a snapshot can see the current state of play with who's on what beach and what is going on. Just recently, and I'll talk more about this after lunch in my other session, we've also incorporated a call-out response app into this. So our SAR teams now get notified of a response that they must turn out to via this application as well, in which they can interact and acknowledge their presence at that search and rescue, as well as the ETA to be able to respond. And of course, many of you in the room might have seen this, and there's some great partners in the room that have helped and worked with Surf Lifesaving to be helped deliver Safe Swim. This was an initiative originally by Auckland City Council and some other partners, and Surf Lifesaving Northern Region and now Surf Lifesaving New Zealand as a national organisation body have opted into this. Safe Swim is a portal that will show any bathing public in New Zealand the safe place to swim, which beaches are open, the location of the flags, as well, of course, water quality and other information. And we applaud the partners that have been part of that project. Thank you very much for letting Surf Lifesaving come along for the ride. So what's next? I see I've got a minute left. If I start talking about what's next in detail, I think we'll be here till about 5:30 this afternoon. But we've got big plans. We've taken a baby step so far from when we spun up our enterprise server mid last year. As well as all the basic foundation about apps and dashboards, we want to start looking at integrating imagery and video into our platform. We want to start looking at deep learning models to analyse beach populations and fix hazards like rips. We want to start using 3D to model beachscapes and rocky outcrops. And our long-term aim is to have a digital twin of the coastline of New Zealand, all our assets, all our clubhouses, to be able to share with our stakeholders, all of you in the room. Thank you very much.
Fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. Just goes to show how a lot of the work that you do, and I think you've probably heard this a lot both yesterday, but if you've ever attended any of the major kind of Esri events, it's really some of the most purposeful work that I think I've certainly seen around integrating technology, and I think it's no more sort of purposeful than not just kind of the very sort of traditional use cases of surf lifesaving, but also emergency recovery, and then some of the other innovation, which obviously the clubs are now looking at trying to develop. Again, not just here, but also overseas. But once again, another good demonstration how New Zealand is leading the way there. So thank you ever so much for that. So I think we are almost pretty much on time, which is absolutely fantastic. And we're about to actually head off for a break. But excuse me, if I could just have one final round of applause for our four presenters today. They did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. And I forgot to say at the very end, I mean, this is actually, or the very beginning, this is actually the best role to have, I would say, at the UCs, and certainly one of the key things that we always look forward to is actually presenting and helping kind of moderate some of your work. So we certainly do absolutely value this. And if there's more opportunity to actually get to see your type of work out there, certainly do elevate it up back through to Eagle or even to us at some of the major events if you're ever around. So. Okay, we will now be moving on to morning tea, and it's about just kind of time checking. We're roughly 10:25, 10:30. You've got 45 minutes to grab some tea, grab some refreshments, connect and collaborate and communicate with one another. And if we could have you all back in the respective streaming sessions by 11:15 sharp, please. We've obviously got a very packed agenda for the rest of today. And also, don't forget, make sure that you have all of your dress-ups and fancy dresses for the gala dinner this afternoon. Just making sure that you have not forgotten that. I think to Dwayne's point yesterday, if you don't dress up, you will be the odd one out. So for those of you who have not attended this before, just a word of warning, I'm sure you probably will be, you will be featured somehow and somewhere. So anyway, with that, please go and enjoy some nice refreshments. Thank you ever so much for your time this morning, and thank you very much to everyone for the presentations. Thank you.